Now, the next property we can talk about is the relative positioning, which is almost the same as the static property value. However, the only difference is that we can now use the top, bottom, left, right property declarations to move and adjust the elements away from its normal position. The other elements will not be adjusted to fit the space from where the element with a relative value was declared. That means that the space will be reserved for that element. So the space will be a gap that was left by the element which will be reserved for that element. Let's say that I would be changing this to relative position. Let's give this a relative position and let's see what will happen to our child element here. You would see that it was moved away from its space here that was given to it by the browser. It was removed from the regular or normal flow of our document. So now it's 50 pixels down away from the normal flow of the document. Just remember that the relative property will be allowing you to change the position of the element relative to where it would normally be in the document flow if it was statically positioned. Just a note to remember here is that we don't really normally use the relative position together with the top bottom properties here because it will be quite difficult to manage if we do this, and it's really difficult to style things around it. So let's say we would want to go and refresh this. You would see that it's overlapping now when we placed a left property of 50 pixels. And it will be difficult for us to style this. And what we will need to do here now will be to go and copy this here so that we can also move the other element that we have here. So let's save that and refresh. You would see that we were able to move the child 1, and so that we can move the child 2, we had to copy and paste the same position and same value left 50 pixels so that it will not be overflowing on the space that's provided to child 2. So this is going to be quite difficult because we also need to go and do the same thing with the child 3 if we would want to go and move all of them together using the position relative value. So it's a common practice that we don't use any of this left, top, bottom, and right properties inside of a element that has a position property declared and the value is relative. So I'm hoping you're getting the idea here that we don't use the top, bottom, left, right properties when we declare position relative to an element because this can be quite confusing because it will be overflowing and you will need to go and try to reposition the other elements in case that you will be using position relative and you will be applying those properties. So the next property or positioning that we could talk about here is the position fixed value. So let's go and do that here in our second div element, the box child 2. So now we have a position fixed value here. Let me just go and remove this first so at least we can go and see what will happen to our document here. So it's now back to our normal flow here, but you can see that the child 2 or the child 3 is missing. This is because once we go and use the position fixed value here, unlike the position relative here that leaves a gap or a space for its original position in the normal document flow, let's say we have top 50 pixels here, as you remember, we can see that it still occupies the space here. So technically, child 2 did not move and occupy the space of child 1 because that is reserved for child 1 here. For child 2, on the other hand, with the position fixed value, remember that it will not be leaving a space. So that means that it has already been removed from the normal document flow. And this fixed value will be positioned relative to the viewport. That means that will be the whole body of the document. And it will always stay in the same place even when the page is scrolled down. So let's say we go and put top 50 pixels here. So if we go and try to do that, you would see that it is relative to the viewport, the body element. So that will be top 50 pixels of the viewport, which is the whole body of the document. You will also notice here that the child 3 element that we have here that has a background color dark gray occupy the space of child 2. So again, this child 2 element will not be leaving a space or gap. That's what it means. And once we scroll this down, you would see that it scrolls with the document because it is fixed on the viewport, on the whole screen of our document here. Let me just close this. And you would see that it's scrolling down together with the viewport. So we from section 1 to section 2. So let's go and try to give it a value of top 0 pixels. Let me just type that here. And then left, let's say 500 pixels. Let's see what will be the position of our child 2 element here. So from the top, it's 0 pixels from the top and 500 pixels from the left. If I increase the value here, let's see 1000 pixels. Let's see what will happen. So, oops, should be 1000 pixels here. So now it's 1000 pixels away from the left, and it's still fixed from the top of the body element, 0 pixels from the top and 1000 pixels from the left, and it's fixed in this position. So you would see that it scrolls down together with the viewport.